Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to go down towards London in England again, and these guys are meant to be the best craft brewery in England, so it's a little bit of a shame that it's taken me so long to get round to reviewing one of these beers. But we're going to go to Wokingham, which is to the west of London. The two nearest big towns I think are Reading and Basingstoke, but we're going to visit Siren Craft Brew, and this is their Liquid Mistress, which is described as being a West Coast red IPA, so it should be a very nice beer. And as you'll know if you've watched my channel, I do really enjoy red beers, and some of the ones that were available in New Zealand were awesome, so I've got high hopes for this one, especially since it's supposed to be the best craft brewery in England. So anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll take you through a very brief history of the brewery. It will only take a minute or two, but if you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. The brewery website's in the description for you below, along with a link to my other reviews that hopefully I can add from Siren in the very near future, because this is the very first time I'm actually trying any of their beers. So anyway, to tell you about the brewery, Siren Craft Brew was founded officially in 2012 by Darren Anley, and he had previously been a home brewer, and he'd actually worked on most of his recipes prior to establishing the brewery, and these recipes, the majority of them were completed in 2010, but they were only officially bottled in 2013, and most of the recipes that he worked on are now the core range of beers that these guys do. But since foundation they've been growing steadily, and they've been increasing their range and their brewing capacity. In 2014 they actually had to install a new bottling line to the brewery, and I think they do have a fairly big premises now, but the brewery are consistently ranked very highly by Rate Beer and Beer Advocate. As I told you, Rate Beer actually has them installed as the best brewery in England, so like I say, supposed to be a very good brewery with a lot of good beers, these guys. And this one I think was actually rated at 95 on Rate Beer and Beer Advocate, something like that. But the brewery is named after the Sirens in Greek mythology, and these were women or winged creatures that apparently used to sing, and their singing kind of led unwary sailors onto the rocks and made them crash their ships and things, and the brewery have named a lot of their core range beers accordingly to that. So just to list those for you and let you see what I mean, in the core range of beers you get the Undercurrent, which is a pale ale, Soundwave, which is a West Coast IPA, Liquid Mistress, which as I said is a red West Coast IPA, sorry. You also have Broken Dream, which is a stout, and Calypso, which is a Berliner style beer. So as you can see, they all have these kind of names that are related to the Sirens in Greek mythology. But in addition to that, they've also got a range of seasonal IPAs, so this is White Tips, Half-Mast Q IPA, Rising Tides, and also it's Seven Seas. And they've also got the Maiden beer, which is released every year, that's a barley wine, and the Odyssey, which is an imperial stout. And they also have Barrel Cellar, where they age a lot of different beers, and they have a special release range, which is usually their seasonals and their one-off experimental brews as well. So do keep an eye on the website, and you can go on there and find a list of all these different beers that they've done. They're quite extensive actually, and some really good beers, I'm told, come out of this brewery, and as I say, my very first time trying them, so I'm actually quite excited for it. But without further ado, let's actually get on to the tasting of this guy itself. So this one is a 5.8% West Coast red IPA, and the commercial description that's on the website for this one, it says a 5.8% West Coast bright red ale with flavours of burnt raisins and crackers balanced by citrus. Liquid Mistress is our femme fatale. Mysterious, seductive and disarming, she draws and charms drinkers with her full red colours. You will soon desire her biscuit and burnt raisin malt base and peachy grapefruit spark. Her devious hop will will steal your breath, apparently. So yeah, sounds very good. It does say that. That's also on the back of the bottle actually. I could have just read it out to you from there, but yeah, it has a little bit of a kind of profile on the back of it. It says the danger is her devious hop hit, and it says good with consummate choice, play with a rich hot curry, or try anything tomato based for a sweet harmony. So I'm not so much into food pairing my beers, but apparently that is what it goes with. So I'll just bring it up and let you have a little quick look at the artwork on this one. I've lost my cursor, but there he is. So as you can see the nice kind of Greek style woman on there. I'm not sure how well it's coming out, but you can just see her face in there, but it's actually a very nicely presented bottle. It is actually a label. I thought it was kind of etched into the glass when I first got it, but it is actually a label. It has a wee bit of information on the back that has that description on it and tells you how to store it. Keep upright, serve refrigerated, serve cool. So it looks very nice, but as you can see, that is the Siren symbol there, and it's also on the top of the bottle too, and the one on the top is also a sticker. It's not etched into the glass as you might think. So I'll just let the light rebalance itself, but without further ado, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. As you can see, a nice smoky opening, a big bubble. That was quite cool actually, but a nice big bubble coming to the top there. and just seeing it out. But as you can see, it's pouring a nice, actually kind of coppery mahogany colour. Nice big head coming out of this one, which will settle down, I'm sure. But yeah, it's poured very nicely. I'll just bring up the light and let you see the colour that this is poured. It's poured a very kind of dark, reddish mahogany colour, actually, as you can see. There's a 2.5 finger kind of frothy, beigey coloured head, actually. Tan beigey colour, I think, is probably the best way to describe that. But it's quite bumpy too, so I'm sure it will go down over the next little while. There is just a teeny bit of sediment visible in the bottom of the glass there, but it looks very nice. But I think the best way to describe this is a nice reddish coppery colour. I'll just check, see how well you can see that. I'll bring the light right over it. That's the kind of colour you're getting out of this beer, so it looks really nice. There's some carbonation visible in it, some small bubbles just going up towards the bottom of the glass, or going up from the bottom of the glass I should say, but none really sticking to the side, but it looks a very nice beer. So let's have a look at the aroma on this one. Very fruity, as you would expect when it's a West Coast IPA style beer. But you've got a lot of nice, it's a very hop forward aroma, I would say. It's more the hops that are coming out of this one. You've got a good bit of piney resin kind of underpinning it, and you've got some grassy and aromatic hops, but you are getting a kind of tropically fruit coming out of this one too. You can smell a little bit of kind of peaches and grapefruit, I would think. There maybe is a little bit of kind of citrus coming out too, but I think it's more of a kind of slightly dusty pine resin that's coming out. But you can definitely pick up that red fruit that's blending in there. The tropical fruit and the pine resin is almost taking a back seat, if you like, to the sort of red fruit that's coming out here, I think. It's a kind of plummy and raisiny note that's coming out of this. It is kind of sharper, but there's maybe some figs in there as well. I always think that the plums and the raisins have a slightly sharper aroma than the figs do. And the figs have also got a very kind of smooth flavour, I would say. But it smells very nice. A nice big fruity hop. Some kind of piney resins just underpinning it. And some grassy and slightly aromatic-y stuff coming out of it too. There's a lot going on in the aroma of this beer. But if you take it in a bit more deeply, there's a sweet kind of caramel malt underneath, and you're getting a little bit of woody and kind of nutty notes coming out here too, I think. But there's a lot of stuff going on in this beer, which is actually really nice. So it's quite complex, so definitely take a little bit of time and just take a sniff of it, because there's a lot of stuff going on in here. But as I say, nice hoppy fruitiness and then a nice kind of rich malt base underneath it. But without further ado, let's have a taste of this guy. This is the Liquid Mistress Red IPA from Siren Craft Brewery in Wokingham near Reading in England. Slàinte. Well, that's really nice actually. It's quite carbonated just from taking it in. But yeah, it is quite a hop forward beer. The grassy and aromatic flavours are coming out first, I think. Then you've got the stronger piney resins kind of becoming more prominent gradually as you go into this beer. But it is actually quite citrusy. The thing that's confusing about this beer is that it does smell quite tropical fruity, but it's more of a kind of grassy, aromatic and pine resin hop that you're getting out of this with a little bit of citrus. I can see what they say in the commercial description. You actually do have a very kind of subtle hint of grapefruit and peach in there, and you'll just get that at the front of the tongue. It comes out particularly as you go into the aftertaste of this beer, so it's quite interesting. There's a lot going on in this one, so if you do try it, just take a little bit of time and think about exactly what's going on in this beer. But yeah, quite a hop forward beer, some grassy and aromatic spice coming out, as I say. The stronger piney resin flavours are kind of underpinning that, but at the same time you've got a nice kind of dark fruit in there. It does have a bit of a kind of burnt. The red fruits, as they were saying in the description, actually do taste as if they're a little bit burnt, and it's kind of raisiny and plummy. Not really figgy, I would say. It's more of a kind of sharper and slightly darker red fruit flavour that's coming out of it. But there is some citrus in here too, which you can pick up. I want to say that it's a little bit orangey, but in terms of the malt base on this one, it's quite interesting actually, because it's very, very toasted. It's a big sort of toasted bread flavour that comes across the middle of the tongue, but it is almost as if the bread is burnt slightly, if that makes sense. It's really, really toasted, but it's there's a bit of caramel in there, just a little bit of sweetness going up the middle of the tongue there, but it's quite biscuity at the same time. It has a little bit of a kind of cereally character to it, but there's a bready and slightly yeasty element comes out. Really the malt base comes out more in the aftertaste, and you just feel these kind of really toasted bits just towards the back edges of your palate there. Around the edges of the tongue is where you're getting the hop flavours. So it's almost as if there's just a tiny little bit of aromatic taste, maybe a teeny bit of earthy character just at the very, very back of the tongue, but otherwise the edges of the tongue are very sort of aromatic-y, pine resiny, grassy hops that are coming out, some citrus around the very front edge of the tongue. There is just a little hint of kind of tropically flavours in there, like peaches and grapefruit, but it really is very mild. The main fruity flavour, I think, is the kind of sort of red fruits, and these, you feel this little oily bubble moving towards the front of your tongue, and that's where you're getting this kind of toasted, burnt raisiny or plummy flavour out there, and that's just coming out behind the very front of the tongue there. But the malt base, as I say, it is interesting. It's kind of bready, maybe very slightly yeasty actually, but it's quite toasted towards the edge of the tongue, which is quite interesting. I think there is maybe some kind of boozy flavours in there too actually. Yeah, you'll feel that in it. The tropical fruit flavours are coming out towards the front of the tongue, then it gives way to a more sort of reddish fruity feel. So there's a hell of a lot of stuff going on in this beer, but it is very, very nicely done. So if you want a nice red beer that kind of challenges your palate, this really is the way to go. So the flavour in it is beautiful. I would recommend you try it. And I would actually say, you know, this would be nice with a sort of fruity cake actually. It's a bit more of a kind of burnt thing. It's maybe like a chocolate cake where you've got a kind of fruit sauce with it, like a raspberry coulis or something. I think it would go well with, but I don't, as I say, I don't really pair beer with food that much. But in terms of the mouthfeel, I would say it's actually very nicely balanced. It's mid-bodied. It's actually got a sharper carbonation than some of the American paleo style beers that I've come across. The carbonation, you will actually feel it coming in. It's actually quite a bit more prominent than some of the other ones I've come across, but it's a slightly oily mouthfeel to this one. It's got a big toasted character. The dryness that you get in the aftertaste is both kind of grassy hoppy, but there's also a dryness from the kind of roasted, slightly, it's almost a kind of smoky, kind of burnt feel you're getting on the tongue with this as well. So that dryness is there, but you've got a good little bit of sweetness from the bread in the middle there, but it is quite laid back. It's more the toasted, slightly bitter flavours on the middle of the tongue, and then you've got the hoppy dryness around the edges of the palate too. So overall, this is a really, really nice beer and very interesting. If you're like me and just like to taste beers to get all the different flavours out of them, then this is one that really will test your palate a little bit if you're wanting to train it. So do try it, and if you do enjoy the red IPA, or you enjoy beers that have got little quirks in them, I think the kind of slightly burnt flavours in this one are quite unusual, but it's very, very well done and a very tasty beer. So I think this would be good with a kind of chocolatey dessert sort of beer, but it's a tasting beer for me. I'm not sure I would session many of these, but it is very, very nice, and I do enjoy this kind of beer every so often. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. Please let me know in the comment section your own thoughts on this beer if you do happen to have tried it before. Hopefully I can review some more of their beers in the very near future. The Siren are quite easily available, so I'm sure I will get some more of them. As I say, I hope you've enjoyed this review. Please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. As always, I'll ask my English viewers to recommend some of their breweries, and I'll see if I can get them, because it's very hard to get English beer up here. But thank you again for watching, and I will catch you soon with more beer reviews, and soon there will be more English ones too. Slàinte.